Yo, what's up, guys? Compass GL here. No, I'm just fucking kidding. Y'all know who I am, bro. If you don't, you do now. So, just wanted to make a quick YouTube video talking about my opinions on the Novus test realm with the new gear, the new spells that we're seeing, the stat changes that are obviously coming into effect. So, you guys have seen a lot of stuff on Twitter, I'm sure, and on other Twitch streams about all the new spells. The new Nova spells, to be honest with you, are very confusing for me at the time. I can't give you my opinion on them. I think they're useless, but who knows? Maybe there's some strange strategy that'll work with them. So I can't really comment on that. I'm going to be specifically talking more about the stat changes that are in effect, along with the spell audits, along with how I think the meta is going to go. So as most of you guys probably know, we haven't seen everything yet. There's still a lot that has been, not shown yet, which is concerning because they are dropping tests onto live without showing off all of the spell changes and all the gear audits they're making. So that's concerning because, for like a week or so before we get the rest of them, there's going to be a harsh imbalance in some schools not being viable because their spells haven't been touched, or some schools being slightly overtuned until their spells get touched, which might make the game unplayable for like 2 weeks unless you play on like Storm or something like that. So that is one concern, I have. And so this is my main problem with the update, right? So new stuff is great, right? No one is against new stuff, but the problem is they are changing the entire system that the game runs on, right? Basic for the most part. So they are adding, Arc Mastery, which cool, but the issue is they added it at level 50 and beyond. So everyone who can crit can get Arc Mastery, right? So the issue with this is you are changing the game at every level of PvP for the most part. So 90% of the PvP community will have to learn this new system, and you are probably upsetting legacy players because this isn't like a new spell. Like, shads, you don't need them in PvE. So if a PvE player doesn't want to use shads, they don't have to. But this is going to be necessary, especially with probably a lot of the new bosses. Now, we haven't seen, personally, I haven't seen like how the new spells will work into questing in Test Realm because I haven't looked at questing in Test Realm at all. But the thing I'm most concerned about is that this is going to drive a lot of the community away because of how different it is. So, and the issue is that there's really not that much of the community left, how it stands right now, right? So before I'm going to chase everything back to Rochambeau, right? So let's say, for example, now this is purely, none of this is like actual facts, so don't pin this on me, but let's say there was 1 million daily players, which is not how much it is, but just for the example. On the day before Rochambeau came out, Lemuria update. So let's say that 1 million daily players. Rochambeau comes out, and as every single person in the PvP community knows, the community took a huge hit in player base, right? When Rochambeau came out. A lot of like legacy players quit the game because they didn't like the update. Okay, so and that's undeniable fact. Q died, or not died so much as dropped down in player base a lot. So that's one thing. So let's say it went from 1 million to 600,000. Okay, and again, this is not actual factual data. This is just an example. So and then you have last February with the mute ban. Okay, so that cut out at least 40% of the community. Okay, so now you're going from 600,000 to like 350. Okay, and something like that, which we're looking at 35% of what it used to be. And now you're adding this new system, which I can tell you from just hearing, feedback from the community, a lot of people do not like it. Now, there's a small community of, and not trying to offend anyone, of low-rank PvP players who are like, oh my god, I can use a myth spell on my fire. This is going to be the best update ever. Which, cool, you're catering to those players, but by catering to those players, you are changing like the entire workability of the game, and you're changing how it works for everyone else. And now this is going to create a lot of issues. You're getting a lot, and I can name off 20 people off the top of my head who are, in the top 20 of the leader, or not top 20, top 50 of the leaderboards consistently, meaning they are some of the highest ranking players in the game that will either quit or completely quit playing PvP, you know, after this update goes live, because they just don't want to play it. They don't want to deal with it. And I honestly don't blame them. You know, they're changing so much, and a lot of these new pins are going to most likely be incredibly hard. They're adding, you know, damn near 200 pins to the game, or maybe it's not that much, but you guys get my point. Adding so many of these things that are going to be necessary to farm in order to play in the new update, which is going to create another huge barrier of entry. Now, what you're seeing right now is like raid gear for the most part. At the end of, you know, the Murray update for Novus, raid gear is needed in some, you know, capacity on every school. If it's a pet, a wand, or not needed so much, but you have an advantage if you have it. Like, there's undeniable a death versus death. If one of them does not have death versus death's a bad example, but a balance versus balance, perfect example. If one of the balances does not have the dark pack pet, they are by default at a huge disadvantage, you know, and that is going to create another big rift, is when, you know, oh, this balance has a fire resist pin or something like that, and the fire doesn't have a battle resist pin. You're getting this free resist without having to give up pet talents. Like right now it's fine, because like, oh, let's say an ice versus balance and the ice is warded, they're giving up three breaker, or, you know, or like a pierce and some damage and resist. They're giving up stats. With the new pins, you really don't. What they're doing is they're taking off the already useless stats. So let's say a balance isn't using fire hitting, because apparently they're making it to where you don't have to use arc mastery, which is good. It should not be mandatory to have to do it to be able to, you know, win in the meta. But they're taking away the useless stats and giving them good ones. So if an ice already, I'm using ice for an example, ice already gets better offensive stats, and then they also get the extra resist that they can socket, you know, you're just over-tuning the game. So instead, like, and they had the right idea, you know, you can't just keep improving the stats, because then you're going to get to a point where everyone just has perfect stats. What they're doing, you know, they're introducing curves, which is good. Curves were good, except for when you don't curve everything equally, which is what we saw in the first week of test round, is they didn't curve everything equally, and you were seeing, you know, storms with 190 damage just hitting people for fun. And there was no, you know, gameplay on that. It's just pray you don't match a storm, and if you do match a storm, you have to set out of your ass to beat it. And now that's, you know, that's the same complaints people have now. I will say I have seen a lot of promising changes. Now, a lot of the lore spells, like they're adding different, you know, usabilities for these spells, which it's great, right? So they're adding, you know, maybe people will have to do Scion now, which I might be out of keys. But you know, they're adding so many different features. That's all good. It's the main issue is when you're forcing, they're changing the gameplay entirely. You know, everything is going to be different than how it is now, if everything on the test goes to live. And the biggest complaint that me and a lot of the other, you know, competitive PvP players have is that it's not tested. You know, we've seen half of what the update's going to be. They could drop it and the game could literally be unplayable for weeks. And, you know, like, for example, Storm Scion that came out in the Lemuria update, you know, that Storm Scion was busted until 5th Age, right? Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but the Storm Scion was not working as intended all the way up until 5th Age, which was, you know, November until, what, the end of April? You know, what if we have another situation like that? What if, you know, the new Storm Teacup spell accidentally, you know, is a permanent healing over time? Something like that, you know? It's not tested. So if it's buggy, we have no reason to believe that KI will be quick to act on it. Now, I'm not trying to shit on them, but tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that they've been quick to update things that are broken. If it doesn't involve them losing money, like the Crown Shop thing that went away in 30 minutes, they're not going to update it quickly. That's just how it is. So you guys let me know any other, you know, any complaints or feedback you have in the comments about the new Novus update. We don't know exactly when it's going live. People are thinking it's going to be this Tuesday, the 29th of November. We don't really know. There's really no telling. But let me know in the comments if you guys have any other feedback, and I will see you guys in the next one.